Get ready to reimagine the future of humanity and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, hosted by Dr. David Gruder, an internationally renowned integrative psychologist, human potential expert, author, and social change catalyst, as he delves into the most urgent issues of our time. With the world facing unprecedented challenges and social and political divides growing deeper, it's time to take action. Each episode of this groundbreaking series will empower you with invaluable insights, strategies, and tools to heal these divisions and restore personal freedom and societal well-being. Whether you're a concerned citizen, a courageous leader, an influential figure, or an ambitious entrepreneur, Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will guide you on a transformative journey. Discover your unique role in creating a brighter future for yourself and society at large. Dr. David Gruder will draw upon his extensive knowledge and experience to provide practical solutions for shaping the world we live in. With his passionate exploration of social change, he will help you navigate through the complexities of our time and inspire you to make a meaningful impact. So, prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience as we delve deep into the heart of the matter. Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and equip you with the tools you need to reimagine and redefine the world around you. The time to transform our future is now. Join us on this incredible journey and enter a new era of possibility. For more information on Dr. David Gruder and the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, visit www.rhfy.ca. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, where together, we create a brighter tomorrow. Now, here is the host of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, Dr. David Gruder.
Welcome back to the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X Zone Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential and societal psychotherapist who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, helping professionals, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. The title of this episode is How AI Can Help Humanity Flourish and Forge High-Performance Teams. Can AI spark a flourishing future? Dive into sanity-saving ways to harness AI's potential. Find out how 100x workforces, exponentially impactful teams, drive AI-first cultures with purpose and innovation. Get a great glimpse into rituals and habits of leaders creating high-performance teams that align values, boost collaboration, and shape organizations for global good. Discover how this can be done to uplift humanity where gridlock once stood. This pivotal conversation is going to blow your mind, injecting wisdom that supercharges innovation and profits from strategic startups to successful exits. This episode's guest is MAHESH THAKUR, a trailblazing AI leader who is helping to shape the future in highly influential ways. A former wunderkind who was one of the youngest talents to build and scale an artificial intelligence product at Microsoft. He has driven AI, helped scale products, and skyrocketed customer bases and revenue, not only at Microsoft, but also at Amazon, Intuit, and GoDaddy, where he fueled 20% growth in their $600 million productivity P&L. Profit and loss. He's pioneering generative and agentic AI. Agentic AI makes autonomous decisions and performs tasks without human intervention. These innovations are rewriting how teams align and thrive. Now a global leader, advisor, and investor, MAHESH sparks genius in navigating tomorrow's challenges, guiding leaders to boldly use AI to align teams, reculture, and lead. Wow, MAHESH, welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours.
David, such a pleasure and what an honor to be on your show today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I've really been looking forward to this. And in this first segment, we're going to look at symptoms that leaders and teams experience, but might not recognize as indications that AI is needed or AI is being improperly used. But first, Mahesh, how did you get interested in AI and its impacts on business leaders, cultures, and revenue in the first place?
Sure, David, what a great question. When I think about my own journey, David, I did not know, but I was secretly recruited into this. This goes way back, around 2005 when I got a call from Microsoft, and when I was speaking with them during the hiring process, I was told I'll be working on MSN, Microsoft Networks.
Yeah,
MSN.com was one of those most used services, whether it was weather or horoscope or looking at search results. MSN was a widely visited site and a very good product. That's what I went into. And then little did I know, Microsoft had ambitions to become one of the world's biggest search engines and compete with Google. And that's how I got to start my journey back in the day. And AI, back in the day, we would call it machine learning models, ML
right.
models. So I got into the whole role of product management where we are building this world's most competitive search engine, and it's powered by hundreds, if not thousands, of machine learning models. And when you put those models together, what you have there is what is now known as the AI, or the intelligence layer. So that's how my journey started. And I didn't have any time to adjust or respond to that kind of a change. I was just drinking from the fire hose soon as I went into Microsoft and building a very large system. And if you think about Microsoft, it's not a company, it's a behemoth. And each product line operates like a company having its own P&L or a business unit. Windows was its own business unit. SQL Server competing with Oracle was its business unit. And Microsoft Office, also called Microsoft 365, is its own unit. So that's how online search, or OSD, that's what we would call it, online search division, was also its own business unit, which would think, operate, act very differently. So, David, to your other question about cultures, that's how I became interested in the culture of deeper cultures, micro cultures. So, if you asked me about Windows, that division or business unit would ship a product once in 2 years, once in 3 years. And here we are in Microsoft Bing, shipping products every day, every week. What a huge difference in how those teams were structured, how decisive they were, and how they were quickly accelerating innovation to compete with the likes of Google and Yahoo 20 years ago.
Mm, great answer. So basically, you were thrown into the deep end of the pool. So,
Absolutely. And I loved every moment of it. I
yeah.
absolutely loved every moment of it.
Marvelous. And now others are getting to benefit from all that you learned through that experience and experiences you've had this since then. In this episode's next segment, we'll get into root causes of what we'll cover during this segment. But first, what are the symptoms that indicate AI is needed or that it's being improperly used? What are people aware of that they may not know has to do with how they're using or not using AI?
Let me actually quote somebody that I really admire. He's the former CEO and chairman of the board at Intuit. His name is Brad D. Smith. So if I ask Brad, he would always remind us about one thing: AI or technology should never be in search of a problem to solve. Always start with a problem. Always define what the problem is first, because that will keep you honest as to what degree do you need a certain technology to be enabling that solution or that product that you're trying to build. So the number one challenge or symptom that companies have is that, do I really need to use AI? Do I really need a heavy piece of technology to solve something? And to what extent do I need that? To what extent is that technology needed? So when you think about deeper implementation. Let's take an example of a search engine. When you go to Google and you type A, it's automatically recommending that, oh, are you looking for something that starts with A? If you start typing F, it'll assume you're trying to type Ford Motors or something like that. You go to T, it thinks you're typing temperature or Tesla. It's auto suggest is helping people not think too much and get going to where they want to go. So that's an example of where AI was used more than 20 years ago to predict what's on the human's mind and help them in that journey, right? So,
Yes.
similarly, if you now pick up an iPhone and start to ask Siri, it's now empowered with the most recent large language models, aka AI. So, that's an example of a problem that you're trying to solve and getting very clear with what is it that you want to do with the customers and starting to use AI. If
Ah,
and when if and when your customers are not seeing your products at least once a month, an update to your product in today's day and age, in 2026, 2025, 26, 2027, if your customers are not getting a product update once a month, that is a problem symptom. That is a problem, David, because that means you're spending too much time in your lab or in your design and not giving what your customers could actually play with or test with. Okay.
mhm,
So when you're seeing these large companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta, OpenAI, they are experimenting. They are launching things to their customers once a week, if not more. And
mhm,
so for any company, traditional company, Starbucks, Nike, Walmart, what they want to do is they want to be able to launch things to their customers at the very minimum once a month.
yes. All right. So let me unpack or summarize some of the things that you were just saying because I think they're very important. The first thing that you were talking about was basically about the tail wagging the dog. AI should never be in search of a problem to solve. That's the tail wagging the dog. You define the problem first, and then what you're able to go to from there that people are struggling with is, do I really need AI to solve that problem and or help solve that problem, and for what purpose? What do I need AI for? How can AI help with that problem, and to what extent is AI needed? And then the other thing that you were talking about is that when businesses are not communicating with and innovating with customers in a consistent at least monthly kind of way, they're really missing out on the opportunity to keep them engaged on a human level.
Mhm, because the
Uh,
pace has gone very fast. Right now, with the in the age of AI, you can ship products and hear from customers on an ongoing basis. So if you're not doing that, that is a very strong symptom that something is not working and you're over engineering a problem by using AI where it's not supposed to.
right. So over engineering AI is another one of those symptoms to be looking for. The These are some of the things that people in business are aware of and they're struggling with, even if they don't fully know how to put those issues into words. And of course, that's part of what you're able to help people do is to get a handle on what the symptoms are that they're actually struggling with so that they can determine whether AI has a part in creating a solution to those problems, to those challenges, and what role AI would play in helping that happen, and to what extent AI needs to be used once you've defined the scope of what AI's involvement would be in helping to solve that issue.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, good. The rest of this episode dives into the root causes of what Mahesh and I just discussed, what to look for in a solution, and his version of that solution ultimately. After a short break, my mind blowing guest, AI expert Mahesh Thakur, and I will explore less recognized reasons behind why AI is so misunderstood, feared, misused, and so forth. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we will be back momentarily. Welcome back. Before the break, my guest, Mahesh Thakur, told us how about symptoms that indicate AI is needed or is being improperly used or where there's confusion about AI. And Mahesh, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Mahesh M. Thakur. Yes.
Thakur. Yes,
Perfect. Thank you.
certainly. And in this segment, as you all know, we'll delve into under-recognized root causes of AI confusion, reluctance, or misuse. Mahesh, what are those most overlooked root causes?
The most overlooked root causes, let's start by thinking about what the C suite and the board kind of do in this situation. So, for the most part, you will have the CEO or the board member waking up to a notification from a Wall Street journal saying that another company or one of their competitors is going full scale into AI. That basically gives them the FOMO. I call it the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And now all of a sudden they allocate like, all right, we're going to go do something with AI. Let's put $250,000 on this one. Unfortunately, as much as they'd like to think we're making an investment, they are causing a problem to get even bigger. Because whatever the culture is, it's just going to get into a bigger problem. If the culture is good, it may actually help with AI. But if the culture already has challenges with executing a project, whether it is technical or non-technical, just putting another 250,000 is only going to add more chaos and confusion. So what you don't want is that people making these random decisions on investments and hoping that people will scramble and figure something out with it. Right? And when you step back and think about it, AI again is an opportunity. You can absolutely be assured that this is not something you want to miss out on. However, you just can't go all in and dive deep and expect that something will change in 3 to 6 months because you threw money at it. That never happens. You may have some high end consulting firms coming in, you'll have a McKinsey do the nice slides for you for 7 months, 12 months, and you'll feel good about being in those presentations. But neither will your business metric move nor will your products get better. And your customers will have no idea what you are doing with McKinsey in that boardroom. So that's the challenge that most companies get into. I'll give you an example here, Dr. David.
Yeah.
There is a company who did something like this. They put in about $200 million of investment. They burned first 50 and they had no idea what to do with it. It was not going into any ROI. Okay. So I get a call, I get invited to connect with them, and here they are sharing everything that went wrong. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. Tell me, how did you go about deciding this number? And who did you connect with? How did you go about budgeting and allocating funds and deciding who's going to be leading what? And for most of my questions, they were very upfront and honest and saying, we have no idea, we assumed this, we made that bet. But then again, it was lacking detailed research, it was lacking that mindset of how do I make this successful. They just thought this is money to basically gamble. But hey, the gamble has to have some kind of a payoff if it is done right. Right. Yeah, you can play poker, you can be on the blackjack table, and if you do it methodically, there's money money to be made. Now that's not where AI goes, but here's an example. So when I come in, I'm like, do me a favor, keep that 140 mil aside, let's just take 10 million. And they're like, what? I'm like, that's all I need for now. I just need us to take 10 million. Let's save your 140. And you've already wasted so much time, so many months. Give me 6 months. And I went to I began to do some deeper work with their organization. So obviously 150 million is saved, David, and we started to take a deeper look at what is their core product, what is their customer type, and what kind of customer do they want to serve 1, 2, 3 years out, because that is their core. You cannot lose your core. You cannot walk away from the core of your company just because there's some nice shiny new object, right? So that's where I spend the time to help them understand where will that investment lead to ROI, and ROI that can be measured, not through you guys writing an article in New York Times saying, okay, look at this and we made a splash. That's media. You could do that all day. But actual, real customer centric outcomes. So fast forward 6 months from there, we had done numerous experiments using that $10 million. The teams knew exactly what they were doing in a way where we created a macro culture for that organization to have roles and responsibilities, to have team alignment, and finally figure out the science behind experimentation. My superpower, David, is in asking the right questions until people understand science first, AI next. Science first, AI next. It's a methodical way of creating or hypothesizing what you're doing and using data so that you have a good amount of idea going into it, executing it, and when the data comes, looking at the output. It's three parts, right?
Mhm.
You have clarity going into it by definition or by hypothesizing, and then you're rigorous in how you run that experiment for a few weeks. And eventually, when you get the output, you know it's a pass or a fail. That's it. It's binary, 0 or 1. And that, people call it science, people call it A B testing, but that's my superpower. So when I went in, fast forward 7 months from there, we actually got success from experiments which actually doubled their amount of investment. So they got 20 million back from the 10 million they invested, and the 140 is still there for us to go in and apply later, spend later. So that's the kind of change I'm talking about, where you don't really need so much investment. You want to make sure you prioritize the culture, the structure, and then get decisive. Culture first, structure next, and then being decisive by running these A B tests, running data, running these A B tests with the data to get to the outcomes that you desire.
Mhm. You have just said a massive mouthful, and I love what you've said. I'm going to do my best to unpack it for our audience.
Mhm.
So, if a culture is having execution problems, throwing
Mhm.
money into AI is a mistake. Just throwing it in a non-strategic way, because AI is not the savior, especially when a company hasn't sufficiently pinpointed the source of their struggles, which are often human factors, rather than technological factors, even when technology is contributing to those problems. And so, what you're saying is it's a mistake for C-suite executives and board members to fall into the fear of missing out trap, the FOMO trap, by over budgeting for AI. That it's important to start by taking a deeper look at what the core product is, what customers that they want to serve with it, which customers they want to serve with it, human factors involved, macro culture, team alignment, and uh, asking the right questions is where the starting place has to be. You reminded me of a scene from an old TV series called Kung Fu with David Carradine. And in that series, there's a moment where the main character is flashing back to when he was growing up in a Shaolin monastery in China, and his main teacher, Master Po, is saying to the young version of this character, Kwai Chang Caine, seek not to know the answers, but rather to understand the questions. And
Seek
so
not
one of
to know
your
the answer, but to rather understand the questions. Love it.
yes, And so that's one of your superpowers is knowing the right questions to ask so that you can understand the science connected to those questions, the culture issues connected to those questions, so that you can generate a hypothesis about what to experiment with first, and then conduct the experiment, analyze the results, refine from there, rather than just throwing these massive amounts of money into AI prematurely before you know what the problem is and because of fear of missing out. How did I do with summarizing what you were saying?
I think you did a fantastic job. You did a fantastic job there, David, because you're right. It was a lot that I shared, but the key tenet is being able to ask the right questions and not rush into investments thinking that something miraculous is going to come out.
Yes.
Okay? And staying close to the core of your company. You don't need to just throw AI and lose your core. As an example, if you have a core offering in a certain area, you want to ask yourself, is investing in AI going to accelerate my ability to connect deeper with my clients? Or would doing X lead to better engagement for my clients? Or would doing Y lead to more customers coming in and checking out my product or service? You have to have that clarity. Without that absolute clarity, there is no point. You have no right, no matter how senior you are, no matter how big your budget is, you have no right to randomize your people and expect that AI is going to do something. And the worst thing that I've seen, David, that happens is that people think, if I bring in AI, I'm going to need fewer people. So that is a double whammy. One, that whole premise is just wrong. You're thinking like, I'm going to go throw tech and all of a sudden I don't need people. That mindset is wrong. And the other thing, you know what this does? It just sets off a lot of triggers inside the minds of people, your same leaders. In a moment, you take their psychological safety away, and they're like, what? Someday you're going to replace me, and you expect me to implement this for you. It's not going to happen. So
Yes.
there's no way this is going to work. The whole premise is wrong. And to me, that's a challenge that many people don't understand. They just think, let's just bring this tech, let's just replace people. That is not how you're going to win the game of business. That is a lose lose proposition for everybody
Yes.
involved.
Yes. Yes. Shiny object and shiny people syndrome is a huge problem, and I love that you are, as an AI expert, saying don't rush into AI investments, and you're saying you bring a level of psychological awareness and people awareness into the AI equation that very few people that I know in AI do, which is why you and I hit it off immediately when we first had our initial conversation. So after another short break, we'll get to the heart of the matter, which is what to look for in a solution that maximizes the benefits of AI and minimizes its misuse. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll continue momentarily. And we're back. Before the break, my guest, who is an absolute wizard at ethically productive ways leaders and teams can use AI, Mahesh M. Thakur, and I delved into less recognized but vitally important root causes of AI being misunderstood, feared, or misused, or prematurely used. And as I mentioned in this segment, we'll reveal ingredients to look for when you want to develop AI savvy as a business leader, culture, or task implementer. So, Mahesh, what ingredients should leaders, business cultures, and task implementers look for when they want to become AI savvy?
What the ingredients, David, that matter truly are first and foremost, you want to make sure you have defined the problem correctly. Okay. Now, the problem definition for the most part, when I go into a company as an AI advisor, and sometimes I take the dual role, AI advisor as well as a leadership coach, I help them truly understand what is their org all about, what is their true vision, what is their true north. And oftentimes people put in some vague statements like, I want to bring in AI because of what? So I have them change the narrative. I'm like, I want to do this, and this is how AI will help me. And here's an example. This is a real rephrase from a client I worked with as an AI advisor. They're like, I want AI to come in to unlock growth. I'm like, okay, let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. And then fast forward, what we had was 15% year on year growth will be delivered by applying AI specifically into products A, B, and C. That's all. Okay. So we got very specific on the goal first, and then saying AI will come in, but not just AI, blanket AI. How or where specifically will AI go? That does three things to you. It creates amazing org alignment. Second, it tells you the how, which means people are getting that clarity. Like this is what I'll do over the next 12, 18, 24 months. And third, it inspires confidence in people instead of feeling unsafe about their jobs. Because if the company is growing 15%, and if I am going to have a role to play alongside AI, that gives them the psychological safety, right? So ingredient number one is clarity in the messaging. Now I'll move to ingredient number two. Ingredient number two is actually understanding what your customers really want. Okay. And some companies are good at it, they know because they are in touch with their customers, and some companies struggle. So when I go in into my role as an advisor and as a coach, I spend the time for them to get intimate, really close with their customers, like understand their needs. I want you to understand your customers better than the competition understands their customers. Because if you don't do that, somebody else will. So that's your second ingredient. Because no matter what you do with AI, it has to serve the customer. If you're doing something in isolation, it has to be clear. Like some companies will come out and say, I want AI because I want to automate these workflows. All right, let's define what that means. Let's define the outcome from that automation. Will you save cost? Will you save time? Will this make the customers achieve better results? Let's talk about that. So is it customers getting better? Is it employees getting better? What is getting better? So that's the second part of the ingredient. And the third part lies in the execution, Dr. David. The third part is, so part one was, you have the clarity in the messaging. The second part is you have absolute customer and or employee insight on how things will get better measurably. And the third part that you go to is execution. And execution doesn't come naturally to many organizations after they've done the first two. And that's where I go in to build the rigor. As their coach, I set up the rhythm of the business to understand what they would do annually, quarter on quarter, and then every single month. That gives them not just the clarity, but also specifics on who is doing what. So two things happen during that time. Either they have not been acting like owners, and now they have clarity to be the owners. And second, sometimes you will see cracks in the organization where you're like, oh, people are not able to communicate well, or people are unable to do some cross collaboration. So that comes out, and then you get to solve that. So execution is not going to be smooth, no matter how clear your plan is, no matter how much clarity you have on customer and employee improvement. The point is, if you don't have good cross-functional teams who communicate and collaborate, it's not going to go. So execution is then centered on how you identify the accountability between teams and how you get them to collaborate with each other so that things, when they come down to execution layers, they do it well. And oftentimes you will see teams are dependent on each other, and those things start to come out when I do my offsites. We start to go discuss like, oh, if you have to do A, you're dependent on B and C, and oh, by the way, B and C has to be done with this team who sits at this other location. So we will then figure out how to bring them in or do another offsite, get alignment. And honestly, Dr. David, in my experience, Some of those things that we've gotten done, we've achieved in 6 months. The companies tell me they've been waiting for those things to happen for 5 years. Why didn't it happen? Well, because either things were not clear, or that camaraderie, that collaboration was not working out with those teams. And that's what I get to unlock in my coaching conversations, in my advisory work, and in the powerful offsites that we do with the clients.
Hmm. Beautifully said. And again, I want to unpack this. First, at a macro level, what you've just outlined is the essence of what I was trained in many decades ago in master planning, where you you really have a bigger picture of the arc of the business, out of which you develop a near-term strategic plan and then an implementation plan and execution. And so what you and I have both seen in businesses is that they skip steps and they do things prematurely. So they're all busy on how do we get something done before they even know at the level they need to know what their purpose is, for crying out loud, right? So what you were talking about is that you start with purpose clarity, making sure that they've accurately defined what they stand for, what their true north is, and what the challenges or problems are in moving toward that true north. Beginning, the old Stephen Covey statement, begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind. So
Right.
powerful
Well,
and
I would
so relevant.
modify that. And I think you would agree with this modification. Begin with the best possible end in mind, right?
Absolutely agree. I love it.
And then the question can move from purpose clarity to strategy, where, in terms of how do you meet that ultimate goal? How do you understand what your customers really want? And do you understand them better than your competition does? And how do you define how your culture can give your customers what they want? And then when you've got all of those kinds of levels of clarity at the master planning level, the strategic level, then you can look at implementation planning and execution by setting up annual, quarterly, and monthly objectives that are really operationalized, that are measurable, and specify who's doing what, in coordination with whom, in what sequence, and with what technological assistance, including AI, and with what accountabilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Dr. David, the one thing I'll also add to what you just shared, by the way, you just nailed it. That's how the companies need to think about. So when I coach my clients, the way I think about it is, I bring, as an advisor, I bring them some powerful frameworks, which, after spending time at Microsoft, Amazon, Intuit, and even GoDaddy, I have built these powerful frameworks given my experience and what I've seen work over and over again. So, one such framework is called the ADAPT framework. So, ADAPT is basically an acronym for assess, design, activate, prove, transform. So I walk my clients through these steps. I am making sure they're checking the right boxes at every step of the way to get to the transformation they want, whether that is getting a transformational with your culture, with your products, with revenue, with customer engagement, what have you. Because then technology is just the means to the end. It's not the end.
Right, right. That's about making sure that the tail's not wagging the dog, that technology is the servant, not the boss, right? And so say those just the names of those steps again. Assess, activate.
Yeah. So it's assess, design, activate, prove, transform, adapt. It's a framework called adapt.
Yes. Thank you. Um, that's beautifully worded, and a great format. And what I'm really taken with, again, just as I was in our initial conversation, is how you coach your clients is very similar to how I coach mine. And the main difference one of the main differences between us is that I'm doing that more from the people end of things as a psychologist, and you're doing that more from the AI end of things, but not in some kind of it's either or way, because I think I have an unusually good grasp of AI for a psychologist, not for an AI expert like you. But as a psychologist, I leave my colleagues in the dust in terms of my understanding of AI. And like I said earlier, you have an unusually deep understanding of the people pieces of this compared to other AI experts that I've come in contact with. So I, I in some ways, I'm feeling like you and I are bookends.
Yes. And it's so great to be together because that's why we bring in a lot of complementary approaches of thinking into a conversation. And I can only imagine how much exploration, how much your exploration could open up in terms of possibilities for the clients who you serve.
Yes, and especially clients that like the portion of the ones that you're working with that need more help with purpose or with
Mhm.
the collaboration pieces or with accountability procedures than you may be an expert in implementing. So after our upcoming break, we'll return for our episode's final segment, during which I'll be asking Mahesh to reveal how more about how he helps leaders and work teams select and benefit from AI. He might even tell us another story. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll return shortly. Before the break, ethical AI mastery mentor, I just gave you a a new moniker. Ethical AI mastery mentor Mahesh M. Thakur and I discussed ingredients to look for when you want to develop AI savvy in the broader context of your business flourishing. As I already mentioned during the final segment of this episode called How AI Can Help Humanity Flourish and Forge High Performance Teams, Mahesh will tell us more about how he does what he suggested in the last segment that you look for in the way of a solution. I'll then let you all know the best way to access Mahesh's remarkable expertise. And after that, he and I will each share the big takeaway we each hope you'll have gained from this episode, followed by my closing comments. So, Mahesh, say a little bit more about how you help businesses get over AI reluctance or over indulgence, premature indulgence, or
Uh-huh.
confusion, and turn it into a vitally valuable and wisely utilized team member, AI as a team member.
Yes, great question there. You know what? You don't want to overindulge, and at the same time, sometimes people are reluctant to start, and it's important to be somewhere in the middle and not overpromise or throw more money than you should. So, Dr. David, the one thing I would say is that when I engage with companies, I truly get them to focus on what matters the most for the business, and most often the leaders um, either have clarity or I help them get clarity on specifically what business levers would lead to growth. As an example, is it doing X for these customers that would then improve the market share, or doing Y for employees, which would then help them retain and attract top talent? Okay. So, one of the most objective ways, Dr. David, is that I remind companies that they have to look at a singular metric called revenue per employee, RPE. Okay. Let me share what that is. A revenue per employee is basically you take the annualized revenue of a company, divide by the number of employees. Okay. So, I'll simplify. If your revenue was $100 million and you have 100 employees, each employee is contributing $1 million. to the company. So that's basically revenue per employee. I'll take the I'll go into these conversations asking them, what is your revenue per employee? And let's figure out how doing a process called co-enhancement we can increase the RPE. Now, co-enhancement is something that I teach them. It's basically putting the basics back in place on how do you make your employees smarter by augmenting them with AI, not replacing them. So the core principle I operate with is augment, not replace the humans. So for many people who think that this is a one-sided investment, AI in people out, that's like a wake-up call. Sorry, that's not how we engage. We basically show you the ways to raise the revenue to look great with your shareholders, with your investors. At the same time, do good to and for the very same people who are actually helping you run your business. That's your employees. So we make sure we go in with that understanding and use a process called co-enhancement. Now, in co-enhancement, I show them ways and means in which these employees can become what I call high-powered teams, HPTs. HPT is my own framework to help them go from being average to becoming really outliers, becoming strong performers. So what you then see happen is over a period of a few quarters, they start to hit all their goals in a much better way, much stronger way, much smarter way. And the goals that the board and the CEOs and the C-suite previously thought were not possible, now suddenly they are in there. They're looking like it's happening. It's here. It's arrived finally. So
Mhm.
that's something that I try to work with them to fully make sure AI is used to augment and make their workforce smart. So the singular metric is RPE. Let me give you an example. Some of the most recent companies which are AI first companies. AI first companies are these companies which are born in the AI era, which is like OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, Anthropic, who is called Claude, Perplexity. All these are AI first. The biggest myth that people have is that, oh, because I was a company that was started in 2010, I cannot be AI first. That's wrong. You can go from being a traditional company to an AI first by doing certain things with your employees and with your systems and for your customers. So I coach them, I lead them on the path to go from being a traditional or an AI last company to becoming an AI first company. So that's a cultural and a systemic and a systematic change.
Mhm.
Once RPE is fixed, and once you figured out how to get and become an AI first company, then we look deeper into what are the new possibilities with this. Because now you're executing much faster, you have a loyal workforce, your employee engagement scores have gone up, your RPE is higher. Now that allows us to accelerate the path forward to say, what do I do now to gain more market share? What are the new possibilities to attract customers from my competition? And all those possibilities start to look like it's happening now, it's coming up in the next quarter, things like that. I have seen some of those frameworks, have applied those frameworks at Microsoft, at Amazon. Now when I went to GoDaddy was when I joined, it was a company that was started approximately 25 years before I joined.
Mhm.
Now that's where I took a lot of what I learned from Microsoft, from Intuit, into GoDaddy, where I basically became that experimentation coach or experimentation champion for all the leaders across the company. And that gave me a very powerful opportunity to bring science backed techniques into all the initiatives, which led to growth. And I could see firsthand how that became a transformational point in the journey of GoDaddy to, to go from being a traditional company to now being an AI first company. It showed in the share price. It showed up in the share price. It showed up in the results we had with our products, with the customer engagement, with the pace at which we were launching products. So
Mhm.
those kinds of frameworks are what I'm bringing forward. And once you do that, your RPE goes up and all those levers start to become possible.
Beautiful. And what I am going to say as a psychologist is that, in my professional judgment, what you've just described is brilliant. It's spot on. And, the whole revenue per employee framework, the co enhancement for high powered teams, framework, and that most of all, what you're really saying between the lines is that you're introducing an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset, into businesses, meaning that AI is used to augment per employee revenue, not to replace humans, because when your existing humans are putting in or generating higher levels of revenue, there's more than enough money to be more profitable, to pay your employees rather than eliminate them, and to utilize technology in a good way. That's an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. And I've got to move into our final segments here. But the last thing I want to say before I do that is that your whole notion of AI first doesn't mean, and we've talked about this before, but I really want to underline it. AI first doesn't mean AI being the boss. It's really about becoming an AI best team member company, making AI the best possible team member it can be. So, um, Mahesh guides leaders to select and wisely use the right AI to align teams, reculture, and lead more effectively. And he does that inside of a large macro strategic planning framework. His website shows you how to tap into his wizardry through his keynotes, advising, mastermind facilitation, and executive coaching. And like I said, just as I provide a similar range of services related to psychological dimensions of business success, Mahesh provides that with the artificial intelligence dimensions of business success woven in a really ingenious and effective and ethical way. I basically view him as him and me as ideal bookends, as I said earlier. His his website is simple. Mahesh M. Thakur. So I'm going to spell that for you. It's www.mahesh, Mahesh, M is his middle initial. Thakur is Thakur, MAHESH, Very, very quickly, truly in one non run on sentence, what is the big takeaway you want people to have gotten from this episode?
The biggest takeaway I want people to have is that AI is a force multiplier. When
Yes.
used correctly, it is a tide that'll lift all the boats.
Yes. Beautiful. And mine is like all technology, AI is neutral. It can be wisely or used or unwisely misused. And AI is evolving at ungodly speeds. Ignore it at your business's peril and your own peril if you're a leader. Today, having a wizard of AI utilization as your mentor and consultant is a necessity, not a luxury. Whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, executive, manager, work team, or implementer. And I don't know anyone like Mahesh who's really perfected that. So again, if you don't have an AI utilization wizard, now's the time to reach out to Mahesh. He can provide you with a level of wisdom and AI selection and implementation wisdom like no one else I've met. Visit maheshmthakur.com to discover ways to utilize him and to reach out to him. Thank you so very much, Mahesh, for bringing your wisdom to so many and for being here on my show.
It is absolutely my pleasure and an honor. What a riveting conversation this was. And Dr. David, I loved both engaging with you and the questions you asked. These are brilliant, and I am so thankful for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for that. And thank all of you for joining me for this episode of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours on the X Zone Broadcast Network. This has been Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential and societal psychotherapist who equips leading edge leaders, influencers, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. I invite you to explore my main website, drgruder.com. That's drgruder.com. gruder.com, where you can find a link to watch or listen to all of this show's episodes, as well as a link to the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty, which is helping to dissolve divisiveness by reuniting individuals, businesses, nations, and humanity so we can at last usher in the age of what I call spiritual self-sovereignty that serves us all. The world needs you, your nation needs you, your loved ones need you, you need you. Boost your impact in helping the future you most want to emerge. I enthusiastically invite you to tune in next time for another spell-busting, uplifting, and actionable episode on how together we can and will build a better future for ourselves and for humanity.